geostrata. Going forward, how will we see action for climate-related adaptation financing for the Global South, especially with India being part of the Troika? Thanks.
We'll take one last question there. Yeah, there. Yeah, the lady there. I'm sorry. Behind you, right at the back.
Okay. Hi, I'm Hamna from Brute. I wanted to know, does India see itself as the leader of the Global South, and how did it assume this role? Because then...
How does India see itself as leader of the Global South? Where is this lady? I'll just go with the stop, then I'll... let me respond to some of the questions, and then I'd like request the Sherpa to come in on that after me. How difficult was it to forge consensus on the Ukraine issue? This, as we have pointed out, is a declaration of 83 paragraphs. It has a lot of content. There are a lot of subjects which have been covered, some of which we have spoken about. But obviously, because of the ongoing conflict, the strong views about it, considerable time was spent, especially in the last few days, in regard to geopolitical issues, which really centered around the war in Ukraine. The question who helped, eventually everybody helped, because everybody came together for the consensus. But I think if Sherpa would bear me out, I think the emerging markets took a particular lead on this, and many of us have a strong history of working together. Bear in mind that actually you have 4 developing countries in succession as G20 presidency: Indonesia, us, Brazil, and South Africa. So, but I would say, rather than who helped, the point to be recognized is that a common landing point was ultimately fashioned out. On the Black Sea grain corridor, there are many discussions going on. As you know, the Foreign Minister of Russia is here. The President of Turkey and his delegation are here. UN Secretary General is here. Other people are here. So it's natural that there would be discussions going on this. In the past, I should add, when the Green Corridor was created at Bali last year, we had also, in our own way, contributed to some bridging of viewpoints and concerns, both between, at that time, between Turkey and Russia, and also worked with the UN Secretary General. On the sentence, that phrase about having different viewpoints and assessments, I think we are being transparent. It is a fact. This is today a very polarizing issue. There are multiple views on this. There are a spectrum of views on this. So I think, in all fairness, it was only right to record what was the reality in the meeting rooms, and I think that is the sense that is sought to be captured. And I will leave the climate action issue to Sherpa, and I don't know if Finance Minister would like to speak on it. But on the Global South, look, it is not, what India has tried to do, beginning with our presidency, was to seek to ensure that the concerns of the Global South constitute the core agenda of the G20 deliberations. Because after 3 years of pandemic, after economic disruptions of various kinds, after the impact of the Ukraine conflict, after climate events, the fact is that the countries of the Global South are in deep economic distress. And that distress has not, in our view, been fully recognized till now. We therefore very consciously started off with the Voice of the Global South Summit. But again, I emphasize, the voice was of the summit. It was a voice of 125 countries who participated in that summit. But we, as the G20 presidency, we saw it as our responsibility of distilling the views which were expressed in that summit and putting it before the rest of the G20. And we can take a lot of satisfaction that many of the issues that the finance minister highlighted, which the Sherpa highlighted, these are truly Global South issues, and we hope that certainly the Delhi summit and the deliberations which will take place today and tomorrow would give strong guidance to take them forward. Sherpa, Amitabhji, if you want to add to it.
On the Russia-Ukraine crisis, India worked very closely with Brazil, South Africa, and Indonesia. And I want to say that it was the emerging markets which played a very key role. India worked with all the emerging markets which played a very key role. There was very tough, very ruthless negotiations which went on for several days non-stop. And I really feel that in the end, the issue was clinched because of the leadership of the Prime Minister, because eventually we had to say that the leader wants it, and this has to be delivered. And secondly, I really want to thank Mr. Jaishankar. I constantly took his advice, and he guided me, and he gave me two really outstanding officers. One was Naidu, Nag Naidu, who's a very outstanding officer and very enthusiastic, motivated young officer who worked with me, Enam Gambhir. They did a really outstanding job as far as the geopolitical issues concerned. I had two other foreign service officers who've done brilliant work, Abhay Thakur and Ashish Sinha, on different aspects. But on geopolitics, they've done a really spectacular work. So it was really great teamwork. It was just brilliant teamwork by India, which has enabled us to achieve consensus on an issue on which the world has evaded any consensus. Even the Bali document which we talk about, actually we could not move forward with it because we could not arrive consensus in it for the first meeting. And on climate, let me tell you that this is one of the most ambitious document on climate, because it talks about almost 5.9. It moves first the language from billions to trillions, and secondly, it talks about 5.9 trillion requirement for the presidency and for the G20 countries. And it lays a huge focus on life principles. It lays a huge focus on reforms of the multilateral institutions, because they were designed for the World War II and not for climate action. So all of these, it talks about new financing instruments, many other things, but in totality, if you look at it, it's probably the most vibrant, the most dynamic, and the most ambitious document on climate action that has come out anywhere.
Finance Minister.
Just to add one line on the climate finance matter, the question was raised whether mitigation is being dealt with or not. It deals with the mitigation, all right, but it also looks at adaptation and resilience. I think now the debate on climate finance is also moving much more into resilience, whether it is infrastructure or planning for it or funding. Resilience takes precedence. That is one. And second, country, particularly on climate, is so different from one another. So this Delhi Declaration and also the discussions which were held also now available for countries to adopt. It is not just going to be price it if it is carbon intensive, a lot more friendlier to countries with different carbon emission levels. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open there's a lady here. Yeah, please.
Hello. Yeah. Good evening. Global acceptance of the fact, or at least a G20 acceptance of the fact regarding and globally that you see. Thank you.
Well,
The gentleman
globally, I
there.
think it will have... Oh, sorry.
Ma'am, we can take questions
Yeah,
together.
okay.
Yeah, gentleman there. Yeah, you. The gentleman there who's put his hand up, if you could give the microphone to him. Yes, sir, you go ahead. You had the floor.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, not you, sir.